So, what it looks like, we do it this way. Okay. So, Nikki, I followed her. She wrote this today at Elon Musk. Grunk reports same as judge. Ex appeal process is dysfunctional. CC me, the real Dana. Grunk. Judge Joe Brown. TV remains suspended as of January 5th, 2026, with no announced timeline for reinstatement. Brown attributes the delayed party to his influential commentary on topics like Memphis corruption, suggesting it may be disproportionately targeted despite no clear policy breach. Judge Joe Brown has repeatedly attempted to appeal his X account suspension through the platform's official process since it occurred in late November 2025. He describes the appeal system as dysfunctional. Submissions loop back to original suspension notice without providing any substantive response,
Substantive.
substantives response, clear reasons beyond the initial claim, suspected automation or impersonation, or guidance or resolution. In public statements shared via videos on platforms like YouTube, often posted by supporters or interviewers, Brown explains that X notified him the suspensions were due to the account appearing automated or not genuine, despite it being his verified personal account with over 131,000 followers. He has explicitly warned he has been explicitly warned by X not to create a new account, with threats of permanent ban if he does so. Brown and his supporters have bypassed the stall internal appeals by rallying public pressure, frequently tagging Elon Musk at support and at XIN in posts and X in posts demanding a manual review. Numerous conservative users have amplified this, emphasizing his support for free speech, Elon Musk's MAGA policies, and lack of violations. As recently as early as January 2026, posts and video clips continue to highlight the issue, with Brown urging alternative contact methods to X staff and public tagging for visibility. No official response from X has been reported, and the account at Judge Joe Brown TV, 46 posts, 20 websites, X appeal process details, Elon Musk free speech.
Hey, send me that, would you?
Yes, I will. And this is Nikki O at Showbiz East 2022. I followed her. Indeed, she's a producer, screenwriter, editor. So I want to say thank you for her, to her for posting that. And I'm definitely will send that right over to you.
Yeah, that it's getting absurd. I think I got done in by AI. I don't think Grok or Grok likes me. By the way, you know where Grok come from? Comes from?
What?
It comes from the book Stranger in a Strange Land by Asimov. It's a
Mhm.
science fiction thing. This guy grows up on Mars far in the future, and when he comes back, he is aghast to find out what's going on Earth, and he doesn't fit in because on Mars they've learned to grok, which is you reach out and you can embrace a reality that other people might not see. That's where I think they get the grok,
Oh,
GROK.
that
That's
makes
how
sense
they
because
spell it in the book.
Elon, he's in love with Mars. He's in love with Mars,
Yeah.
Elon.
Well, that's why I think he picked the thing grok, but
Yeah.
and
Um,
there's another thing too. When their close kin die, they eat them out of tribute. It's a little bit of cannibalism in there too.
God. So I did send that to you, and thank you again to Miss Nikki. Appreciate that.
Thank you, my dear. I do appreciate it greatly. The support shall not be forgotten.
So moving on to getting back into Mendora, honey. So I want to play this. This is about 9 minutes, but I like first post, right? So it's the US long history of regime changes, right? So after we watch this, my question to you, Judge, is what is going to happen to Venezuela, you know, after
They'll
that the
probably
United
do it
States.
just like they did Japan.
So before I play this, guys, please hit the like button, thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up, and please share this live streams on all of your social media outlets. So, all right.
While Trump's record of attacks is stark, it's also in line with American history. After all, this is what US presidents do. Regime change. They've been in this business for a long, long time. Ask Iran. They got a taste of it way back in 1953. Their prime minister was Mohammad Mossadegh. He was a democratically elected leader, but the Americans got rid of him. Do you know why? Because he wanted Iran to benefit from its oil wealth. You see, until the 1950s, the West controlled Iran's oil, the Anglo-Iranian Oil Company. It was a British firm, and they got a bulk of the oil money. Tehran only got a limited share. Mossadegh wanted to change that. He had the support of the parliament and the people. He tried to nationalize Iran's oil fields. Britain, of course, did not like it, so they appealed to the Americans for help. And guess what the US did? They launched what was called Operation Ajax. The CIA laid the groundwork for a coup. The first attempt failed, but in 1953, the second attempt succeeded. Mossadegh was removed. The US installed a pro-Western monarchy. It was under Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi. Then in 1954, they turned to Guatemala. Their president was Jacobo Arbenz. He introduced land reforms in the country. And these reforms hurt an American company called United Fruit. This company owned a lot of land in Guatemala, so the CIA came to their help. They launched Operation PB Success. They trained 480 rebels. They launched a fear campaign and dropped leaflets from the sky. The Guatemalan army gave up without a fight. President Arbenz was removed. A military officer supported by the US took power in his place. With these two successful attempts, Washington got bolder. Their next target was Cuba. They wanted to replace Fidel Castro. They orchestrated an invasion by CIA-trained Cuban exiles. It failed. Castro came back stronger. This failed coup led to the 1962 Cuban Missile Crisis. Then in 1963, the US turned to South Vietnam. They wanted to counter communism in the country. The then president, Ngo Dinh Diem, was not helping. So America decided to remove him, and they did it in 1963, but the coup created a political vacuum. It destabilized South Vietnam. That same year, the US also targeted Iraq. They supported a coup against then Prime Minister Abdul Karim Qasim. He was killed. The Ba'ath Party took power. Ironically, it's the same Ba'ath Party that led to the rise of Saddam Hussein, a leader that America would dethrone decades later. In the 1970s, the focus was back on Latin America. The US had its eyes on Salvador Allende. He was the president of Chile. Richard Nixon was the US president then. Accounts suggest that he ordered the CIA to make the Chilean economy scream. In 1973, a coup ousted Allende. It led to the dictatorship of Augusto Pinochet. The next decade was about Afghanistan. The Soviets had installed a government there, so the US armed the Afghan Mujahideen. They sent them aid and weapons to counter the Soviets. In 1989, the Soviets withdrew, but Afghanistan did not stabilize. It plunged into a civil war. The Taliban came to power. And you know what grew out of the Afghan Mujahideen? The Al-Qaeda, led by Osama bin Laden, the same man who carried out the worst terror attack on American soil. But the US clearly did not learn its lesson, because in 2003, they went back to West Asia. This time, the target was Iraq. It was called the War on Terror. The Americans went after Iraq's President Saddam Hussein. They accused him of having weapons of mass destruction. None were found eventually, but the regime was toppled. And the invasion destroyed the country and the region. There was a huge power vacuum that led to the rise of terror groups like ISIS. By some estimates, the United States attempted regime change 70 times during the Cold War. 70 times. So what does all of this show you? That Washington has not learned its lesson. They may have mastered regime change, but the path that comes after, they're really bad at that. Will this time be different? I guess we'll have to wait and watch.
We have got
Well, they did pretty well with MacArthur in Japan, where General MacArthur became the shogun of Japan. Japan is pretty well on its feet. General Marshall, who was U.S. Army Chief of Staff in World War II, five-star General Marshall set up the Marshall Plan when he was Secretary of State under Harry Truman. And it seems Europe, Germany, France, Italy, Greece, Turkey, Spain, well, not so much Spain. Let's see, Britain, Switzerland, Norway,
I was
Sweden,
just
Denmark. They're doing pretty well now.
no,
So,
that was she has a great
you
point.
know, she has a point. Sometimes we got it right, sometimes we got it
Well,
wrong.
we talked about this yesterday, and my question to you, or my statement to you, was if Venezuelan economy improves under the United States control, Trump would have done what other presidents could not or did not do, actually stabilize a country that we went
She,
in.
she left a little out of there. Like I said, you had to take what happened to Japan and Europe after the end of World War II. We got them together. We put a real live crew together to do that. Not so much. John F. Kennedy was entirely too young and inexperienced. Even his
Brother.
guy McNamara ultimately winds up saying, "We thought we were hot shots, but we found out we didn't know what we thought we knew." And Johnson couldn't clean it up, so it was a mess. Tricky Dick Nixon, he made some mistakes. He was a strong leader, but he was fundamentally a criminal
Mhm.
in his heart and soul. And
Who?
some other things, and some other things have happened. But sometimes we do get it right, sometimes not. And she talks about the 70 attempted rule changes. One of the bad things is Kissinger under Tricky Dick Nixon set up through the Shah of Iran the creation of OPEC in the early 1970s. And Kissinger, as Secretary of State for the United States, was the one that called for the oil crisis to develop in 1974. So I mean, we make a lot of bad shots. Osama bin Laden became a mortal enemy of the United States after he had been recruited by the CIA. I have had it reported to me to do a great deal of service for the country, and he got betrayed because the Reagan administration was into plausible deniability. They scapegoated Ollie North and they tried to kill Osama bin Laden, who had been in charge of the Stinger missile cash trade that went on with the Taliban in Afghanistan with that no arms for the Contra thing in violation of the law. He had also been the one that transplanted the engineering plans for the A bomb, for hydrogen bombs, the nukes to Pakistan to offset India back in 1980.
Mhm.
So we make a lot of bad calls, but then again, that's part of the negative collateral damage that our system causes. It's like our whole system of elections sometimes produces great individuals and sometimes some of the lousiest, like Joe in the Hole that were just in a little while ago.
Joe in the hole.
Yeah,
I
that's what
thought
they
we
call
moved
it.
on
That is
from that.
not. What's that?
I thought we moved on from that, Carl.
Well, I mean, but it's just an example of how our system can go wrong, badly wrong. And
Well, you look at these presidents down here, and you look at all these countries that these little name tags on them. George Bush Senior, Gulf War, Panama, Somalia, Soviet Union, George Bush Jr., Iraq, Afghanistan, yo boy, Obama Tang, Libya, Syria, Yemen, Afghanistan, Ukraine, Clinton, Balkans, Iraq, Sudan, Rwanda. Oh, remember the Rwanda genocide?
the
And we
two sitting down in there, they were trying to get their family company, Halliburton, some
boy,
benefits.
yes, yes.
Bush Sr. Was presiding over not just the American fortunes, but the broke fortune of his families, the pot of offshore oil Inc. that was incorporated in Kuwait and Hussein nationalized it. When they were successful down there, the Bush family fortune was restored. The second Bush over there, he wanted to get Halliburton the rights to exploit the oil resources of Iraq. Hussein signed a contract with the French and the Russians, which deprived Halliburton of its revenues. They got it back in 2007. They got the opportunity to exploit Iraqi oil. In 2008, they were bringing in 2.3 to $7 million net every 7 hours in Iraq to show how profitable it was. Dick Cheney, who was vice president to George Walker Bush, the second Bush, was a cousin, as is Barack Obama. One, two, three, the three on this end out of the five of them, they're all cousins and they're related. So we have been in the throes of family enterprise dictating foreign policy for the country. But Mr. Trump isn't in that cabal.
Yet. Well,
Well,
you know what? Again, he may be in that cabal, but if it won't
he's
be,
not related to
no,
anybody.
he's not related to none of them. But what I'm saying in his track record, this is what I do hope, because I don't trust no politician. I don't care what party line, but I do hope that as far as when we talk about geopolitics and international stuff, that his track record would be way better than these five.
Yeah, and see, but these three out of the five are blood kin relatives. They're actually related,
Hmm.
not just by marriage, but by blood kinship. In other words, in England, they'd be rivals for the royal family or something like that. Jimmy Carter was number one in his class at Annapolis, a hell of a naval officer, and he wound up being commandant Commodore, which is unofficial rank in the U.S. Navy now, and he was in charge of the nuclear missile submarine fleet in the Northeast Atlantic during the Cold War, and then he became a peanut farmer. Um, Bill Clinton grew up with a drunk father in a trailer park, and he was a brilliant, he's smart, and he got where he got with no help from anybody but himself. Was a Rhodes Scholar, wound up going to Yale Law School.
Well,
He became five-term governor down here in Arkansas, probably at the time the most corrupt state in the union, perhaps outside of Mississippi.
hmm.
So he all learned all of the ins and outs. But these other three over here, Bush, and Obama, they're all blood kin relatives. Obama through his mother, through her father, his grandfather, who was first cousin to President Bush one and second cousin to Bush two.
Mhm. Well, listen. So the question is, will Venezuelan economy improve with United States takeover? And
Probably yes.
if that's the case, I don't, listen, you have to give Trump his props with Venezuela. Again, I don't trust no politician. They're all liars. They all have to do deviant things. However, if their economy improved, he would be the first president to do what other presidents have never done and could not have achieved, is actually help the people of a country that the United States took over.
I'm not
It
worried
needs
about
help.
that. I'm worried
So
about we need this country to have
so here's
somebody
my
look
second
after
question.
its interest
So
for a
so here
change.
okay, so here's my second part to the question. Do you think, with the United States going into Venezuela to control the oil and other resources and to put a chokehold on the drug cartel, will you think that would help our American economy?
Yes, it would. See, our economy has gotten 80 years of being screwed up. It had a good foundation, but at the end of World War II, some things were put in place that were helpful to everybody's economy. but they became obsolete under the circumstances as they evolved, and nobody's changed them. They just built on top of them, and now it's a real live mess. Our economic system, our economy is constipated, and it's time for somebody to administer a laxative and squirt the enema bulb, and what comes out doesn't smell good. But somebody's got to do it.
True. I want to share this real quick.
But one problem in this,
Mhm.
we have to pay attention to who we're putting in office, because as you can see, the person that holds this office has a lot of power and authority. It's not without reason
Mhm.
that the president of the United States is called effectively the most powerful man in the world. And at least while he's occupying the office. So we have to be very careful that we don't get any more assholes in this position who are in there to push a theological agenda of
Mhm.
the rainbow or anything else rather than delivering good and effective governance.
Right. Well, it says here a reminder: Mandela promised Biden free elections for sanctions relief, lost and stayed in power. So it's saying flashback in 2023, Biden's crew eased up on Venezuelan sanctions, trading for Maduro's pinky promise of free and fair elections, even tossing in a prisoner swamp that freed jailed Americans. Fast forward to 2024.
That's the seven that got freed in return for the two his wife sent over there that got caught and busted.
And then fast forward in 2024, Mandora tanks the vote, hunkers down and power anyway, and rounds up or boots out his opponents. Classic bait and switch. So I want to play this.
The Biden administration also recently rolling back sanctions in exchange for the promise of free and fair elections. Here was President Biden when he was asked about criticism of the deal.
It's okay because they've freed Americans, people who were held illegally, and the made a deal with Venezuela with the whole free election. So far, they've maintained their promise, and that's it.
The Biden administration also.
What did he say?
He's just saying he's giving us assurances that they'll act right, which are worthless.
They didn't, and that's why
They're
Trump
worthless.
cut the shit short. Like, no, nigga, we going in there and we getting your ass up out of here.
I don't like that word.
Well, he played a snippet of the Biggie song with the N word in it. Basically, he said, we getting your ass up out of there. Oh my God. Sometimes you could be so square.
No, I just know what it means, and
Exactly.
and I get it.
When you call Mandora nigga,
what?
ignorant person, isn't Nicholas Mandora nigga ignorant person?
No, I don't even call him that. That signifies an animal. Let me tell you something. Do you have a dog, right?
Yes.
Nice dog. I've seen
That's
your
my
dog.
baby. Kingston.
Okay.
Mhm.
Now, did you get your dog given to you, or did you have to buy the dog?
No, I didn't buy him. I went to an adoption. I went to the
Okay, you adopted him, and he was in somebody's custody and control, right?
Yes.
Well, if you consider Negroes, the N-word type, as being super intelligent, great African apes, you see, that's what it signifies, the lack of humanity. Chattel slavery means cattle. In other words, they're animals, not human. And I told you about that thing I read way, way back at UCLA in an archival section of a large library they had. And it was anthropology, and it was something written at the very beginning of the 20th century, and they were trying to convince people that Darwin was right about evolution. They said one only has to look at the African great apes to see the similarities. And they talked about the gestures, and one African great ape could even use language. and to an extent still breed with humans. And they defined the African great apes as the chimpanzee, the gorilla, and Negroes. So that was the attitude.
But
And
you
I
said
don't
Negroes,
like
not nigger.
dehumanizing people.
Okay, I get it. Well, play this.
Hola amigos, yo soy su nuevo presidente, el señor Donaldo J. Trump. Your ex-presidente, el señor Maduro, is no longer your presidente. He kept talking shit, and fucking around, though, and he ultimately found out, though. Anyway, we're going to make Venezuela grande again. Mucho grande. El bigger y el better than ever before. We're going to drill, baby drill. We're going to have a big, beautiful fiesta, all the tacos you want. Mucho mariachi, sexy mamacitas, and delicious margaritas. And President Trump is going to be el DJ, okay? Muchas gracias, muchachos. Y let's make el Venezuela grande again. Arriba el Venezuela, amigos.
This is from his crew, propaganda crew.
No, this is just somebody. This is a random Donald Trumpo. This is a random what do you call it, parody account.
Yeah.
So the point
That's cute.
it's all so the reason I play that because it's all fun and games. Like me saying, "Oh, he said nigga get your ass about it." It's all fun and games. See the parody mocking the Latin.
Well, I get the parody. I just don't buy into it. So anyway.
So Hugo Chavez. Come on. History lesson.
Oh, okay. He's no longer with us. He's no longer with us. He kind of set up that Cartel de Soleil, the sons, the generals' insignias. See, the military was behind the drug trade in Venezuela. They supposedly had the election. The woman got elected, but somebody said, Maduro said, no, it's not going to be like that. And they staged the military junta and they kept control and they kept running the drug cartels and the criminal rackets. So it made no difference that they had this Soleil on their FLA.
When Hugo Chavez was president and Maduro was under him, it was Maduro that would go and collect the money.
He's the bag man.
On the cartel to pay Hugo, because Hugo was like, "Where's my checks? Where's my payments to allow you to come through here and do business or whatever." So yeah, that
He
was
was the rat in, you seen Zootopia? The animation where the bunny rabbit wants to become a cop. She becomes a cop.
no, I
Pretty
didn't see
good
that.
detective. They've got Mr. Big in there. He's the gangster, and he's got these polar bears that are his enforcers, and he's a rat. He kind of plays it like Marlon Brando played Don Corleone, and it's funny. Some of the lines that I've heard kind of remind me of some of them that came out of Mr. Big's mouth in Zootopia 1 and Zootopia 2, mostly in Zootopia 1.
Okay. Well, remember I sent this to you. I don't want to play this whole thing because this is about 8 minutes.
Want to learn about Venezuela? I'm getting the board. Whoever said teaching wasn't physical. All right, people want to know about what's going on between the United States and Venezuela, but in order to understand what's going on today, you need to understand what has gone on before. That's why history is so important, guys. Come on. Venezuela and the U.S. I've decided to do this chronologically because I feel like doing history metaphorically difficult. Number one, pre-1998. Pre-1998, Venezuela had a huge oil supply, actually biggest in the world, and the biggest stakeholder was a U.S. company called Exxon. Why is this important? Because of their huge oil supply in Venezuela, Exxon took it over. So the vast amount of profit, the percentage of profit, went to the U.S., and Venezuela as a country got next to nothing. And because of this, their economy started to fail. And as their economy started to fail, Guess what? A dictator waiting in the wings wanted to jump in and save themselves from God knows who. Oh, from the United States. How do I get steak and oil companies is taking over the entire world? Number 2, 1998. That's not right. I hate it when I can't write numbers properly. Hugo Chavez was a democratically elected president of Venezuela. Now, once he got in, again I say democratically, he started to push towards authoritarianism, and he started reducing the checks and balances of the democratic system. Side point, does that remind you of anybody else? He also started to rewrite
Joe in the hole.
What?
Joe in the hole, it reminds me of. Go ahead.
So-
She's coming from the left wing, I can tell.
Yeah. And you watched this, right? Should I continue?
No, I didn't watch it. It kept
you
referring to Facebook, and I'm permanently banned from Facebook.
No, it was TikTok. Oh, you don't have a TikTok account.
No, yeah, it kept referring me to Facebook.
Oh.
to solidify his dictatorial power. Parallels are really uncanny. In 2002, a woman named Maria Machado, ignore how I said that, but keep that name locked in your head because she's going to be important later, created an organization called SUMAT in order to overthrow the Chavez government. Psst, who do you think was funding her operation? You guessed it. George W. Bush, President of the United States at the time, was funding her through the National Endowment of Democracy. You know what? People just make up names to mean anything nowadays. So through this National Endowment for Democracy, the United States funded Machado in order to overthrow Chavez. And when it didn't work, Bush said, "Not my problem, I didn't know anything about it." And she was eliminated from all political life going forward. And then, in 2002, Bush was a very busy guy. Number 4, in 2007, Chavez, reinvigorated with power and an authoritarian regime, decides to nationalize Venezuelan oil. Ruh-roh. That meant that Venezuela took all of Exxon's money, all their oil, and all their access to oil, and shifted the lion's share of profits back to Venezuela and left Exxon, well, not a lot of money. P.S. Exxon then sued and won $1.4 billion in a claim. But what kind of international police force are we going to get for Venezuela to be forced to pay Exxon? None. After that huge shift of economic power, Venezuelan oil dropped from 3 million barrels a day way down to 700,000 barrels a day due to corruption and, let's be honest, informal sanctions put on them by the United States because they just stole a bunch of their money from corporations. Stole might be a U.S. word, considering the oil was on Venezuelan land and considered a Venezuelan resource, but who's counting? The U.S. really does imperialism out of 10, don't they? Ooh, new chalk. Number 5, a guy named Madero, used to be the VP of Chavez, takes over, and he starts building an even stronger authoritarian government. I forgot the year. 2013. Obama calls the drug cartel and this particular regime a threat to democracy and national security of the United States. That's then followed by Trump putting on economic sanctions in 2017. Are you with me so far? This is about to get interesting. Interesting, I mean even more corrupt. 6, 2025. I brought you right up to the present. Maria Machado, remember I told you to remember that name, wins the Nobel Peace Prize. And who does she dedicate it to? None other than Donald Trump. And it's at this point that Donald Trump begins attacking boats, Venezuelan boats, calling them drug cartels, talking about revitalizing and restoring democracy to Venezuela, and talking about how they're a threat to national security. And guess what? The U.S. got to go in and save some people. Oh, and P.S. Donald Trump wants his oil back. It's the ending that's really going to get you. The big question about why Donald Trump is doing this is why, and I think the answer is going to surprise you a little bit. Number one, he is going to claim that he is going to liberate Venezuela. Guys, always be careful when the United States of America liberates anything, because usually it means they're going to take it. And he's going to install Maria as the president, formally excommunicated from all political life, but she's going to serve a purpose. Number two, Machado will then give oil rights back to, you guessed it, Exxon. 80% goes to them, 20% back to Venezuela. Everybody's happy and a new power is installed, but that's not the only reason this is happening. This last one's going to blow you away. Number three. Is it about oil? Absolutely. They want control of the world's biggest oil supply, but that's not the full answer. What the real answer is U.S. currency rates. Follow along, this gets tricky. Oil has always been traded in U.S. dollars, called petrol. And what that has served the United States in doing is solidifying, is stabilizing, is increasing U.S. dollars. Because if anybody wants to buy oil anywhere in the world, they have to use U.S. currency. It artificially inflates the price of the U.S. dollar and stabilizes the U.S. economy. This is the real problem. Because what Trump and the United States is really afraid of are BRICS nations. What are they? They are nations, they are countries that have gotten together and are starting to trade without the United States, especially oil, and not use the U.S. currency as their trading denomination. And that is going to possibly submarine the U.S. economy. So is it about oil? Sure, but what really it's about is about the United States being able to control the entire market of trade when it comes to oil, thus inflating and propping up the U.S. economy. So when somebody says, is it about the oil? Say, sure, but that's just a vehicle for them to control everything else.
Propaganda from the left, anyway. It's cute. Some facts in there, and there's a lot of slanted. It's basically anti-American. But anyhow, Exxon, Standard Oil was hooked up with Indonesia, which was just prior to this believed to have had the world's largest oil reserve. You got Anglo Persian Oil Company, which is BP. Most recently, Obama pardoned 23 executives who were deemed responsible for that Gulf oil rig blowout that caused so many billions of dollars of damages down there in the Gulf. So it's not unusual. You have Halliburton trying to get a hold of Iraqi oil exploitation rights. I mean, it's big money, and you need to be careful who you get in. Are you getting in people who are trying to make the money, or already have the money, or have another interest besides the money? It's the way the world works. It's still basically who kicks whose ass.
Exactly. And we got to make sure that we're the ones kicking the ass.